Alright, welcome to our global and community impact presentation, presented by myself, Shuaib, Ashley, Jared, Warren, and Matthew.
For our global and community impact assignment, we chose as a group to explore the ongoing issues surrounding the racist abuse sports stars, in particular footballers, continue to receive on social media across the world.
The ongoing issue of racism on social media being aimed at professional sports stars has been around for many years now. However, with the recent coronavirus pandemic, it's increased significantly. In March 2020, the whole of the UK and many other countries around the globe, including America, Australia and Spain, all went into a lockdown. When certain lockdown rules were eased, professional sports matches could resume. However, no fans were allowed to attend at all. This therefore meant social media became the best way of finding out information and getting messages across to players and managers. Many high-profile black athletes, whether male or female, were subject to racial abuse due to the increased amount of people on social media. Many of these include footballers like Raheem Sterling, Reece James, Romain Sawyers, Wilfried Zaha and Lauren James. This most recently led to a big event in the sporting world called the social media boycott, which we will get into later.
Our media artifacts. Following on from Ashley, this is why we decided to do a podcast for our media artifacts. In our podcast, we explore the different subsections relating to our chosen topic. We explore social, political, economic, and cultural ideas. Before we recorded the podcast, we all did our own forms of independent research and used stories to back up our own information. For example, we would use pieces from Sky Sports News and BBC Sport to gain facts and figures to back up our points, but also to create questions for one another to answer throughout the podcast itself. As Ashley mentioned, this issue isn't just happening nationally here in the UK, it's happening globally. The whole idea of racism occurring on social media is just a lot more frequent over here due to the sheer amount of people recreating accounts to send horrible messages if another one gets blocked.
Now for our main points. As Jared mentioned, for our podcast, we all explore the different idea relating to our issue. Me and Ashley both researched the economical side in terms of what's being done with the power of money to stop this racism on social media happening. I found out in January 2021, Sky announced a partnership that had been formed with Kick It Out in order to fight racism and discrimination. The partnership sees Sky become its key broadcast media partner in the drive for inclusion in football. Sky stated that they will provide Kick It Out with £3 million of funding over the next 3 years and make it easier for fans to report incidents of discrimination. The core strategy components are as follows. Mission: to eliminate discrimination in football and create a game where everyone feels that they belong. Vision: to bring football together and be recognised as a hub for inclusive and positive change in football, from the professional to the grassroots game. People: we serve underrepresented and minority groups in football. Partnerships: attract and retain long-term funding partners who share our vision and values. Programmes: build sustainable programmes which are scalable by design with a focus on advocacy and reporting, guidance and education and talent. Data and technology: lead the football industry on transparency, reporting and data-driven policy. Ashley found out some more interesting facts.
I also found out that Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich has increased funding towards their social media after defender Reece James was subject to abuse. I also found out that the No Room for Racism campaign set up by the Premier League in 2019 outlined a new plan in February 2021 to promote more equality, diversion and inclusion of people from all backgrounds in football. Shuaib looked at the cultural ideas surrounding racism.
Racism is an issue that has been around for centuries. It began in the 17th and 18th century when people were kidnapped from Africa and forced into slavery. People aren't born racist. It is often due to their family members or the culture that they grew up in. It is very upsetting to see that celebrities these days that face racist abuse and have now become hardened to it. Chris Hughton has said that he faced a lot of abuse back in the 80s as a player, but now has become used to it. Racism isn't a new issue, but now with the growing presence of social media, this gives a platform for people to speak up about the issues that they are facing. Sean Wright Phillips revealed that back in 2004, England PR told him not to speak out when he was racially abused. He and a few other players were subjected to monkey chants in a game in Madrid in 2004. He said that it was all forgotten about within 48 hours and nothing was said. He said they just had to get on with it because they didn't have a platform like social media to voice their concerns and generate the support they needed. In the modern day, if this occurred, there would have been a platform for the players to gain support and further action would have probably taken place. Warren looked at the political ideas surrounding racism.
I found out that the movement began in July 2013 with the use of the hashtag Black Lives Matter on social media after the acquittal of George Zimmerman in the shooting death of African-American teen Trayvon Martin. The movement has been around for a while, but has come back to attention again with the recent killing of George Floyd in 2020. I also found out an estimated 15 to 26 million people participated in the 2020 Black Lives Matter protest in the US, making it one of the largest movements in the country's history. In the United Kingdom, all 4 top English football divisions have given players the option to take the knee before the start of games as a symbol for the movement. However, the continued racist abuse suffered by players has sparked clubs to boycott social media and opt not to take the knee, as they prefer to stand as a message to combat racism in the game. Finally, Jared looked at the social ideas surrounding racism.
My role in the podcast was to discuss the social impacts of racially motivated abuse and how both the general public and organisations' role in social media has affected the current sporting landscape. In the podcast, I outlined the recent incidents of racist abuse directed towards famous football players online, for example, the likes of Hamza Chowdhury and Raheem Sterling. Using statistics from a joint PFA and Kick It Out study into online abuse, I discovered that since football has restarted during coronavirus times, the number of cases has risen significantly. I go on to mention Kick It Out's 4 requirements for tackling these cases of abuse, which I found on their official website, which clearly show how certain sporting organisations are wanting to tackle the recent rise in numbers. As I start to finalise my planned piece of the podcast, I evaluate the differences between local and global effects and how systematic discrimination has entered into a local scale. I also prompt discussion by asking my teammates their opinions on social media and if they believe it has increased the chances of a sports star being racially abused.
A few of the main points we wanted to get across within our podcast are the following. We wanted to make our audience aware of just how bad this issue is becoming. We also wanted to make our audience aware of what's already been done to combat the issue and potentially make themselves question, is it really enough? Or for example, one question we had is why is money needed to stop it? We wanted everyone to understand the consequences of sending racial abuse to athletes online. Yes, the people who send it might think it's only one bad comment. They get lots of praise anyway. However, one horrible comment could have such a bad effect on a player's mental health or performance the next time they play because they could be scared to mess up, otherwise they will be abused again. The overall main point we wanted to get across is whether this issue was just happening in the UK or across the globe. It's still horrible for players to deal with. Just because they are earning hundreds or thousands of pounds per week doesn't make them inhuman. Racism hurts all the time, and away from all the money and the fortune involved, these stars are normal human beings who feel pain and emotion. So people need to see this has to stop before it's too late.
Adding on from Matty, we also tried to incorporate the key aspects that we learned throughout the semester into both our podcast and presentation. For example, in terms of colonisation, the messages may have only been directed at these professional players, but they still all have a background. So if you think about it, it has an impact on everyone from that same background, meaning it no longer affects just one person, it affects a group. If you think even harder, racism has an impact on everyone really. And yes, racism may not have originated from sport itself, but as Matty said, these players are still human beings, which is why it connects to sport in so many ways. As a lot of these professionals are now making a stand and rising above the racism in order to make social media and life in general much better and less toxic, and a less toxic environment in terms of racism.
And now on to our reflections. I think overall from all our group's research, some of our findings we made are quite shocking, especially the idea that social media companies like Twitter at this moment in time aren't planning on deleting or banning these anonymous accounts. We also found shocking is that Sky or club owners are having to inject big amounts of money in order to stop this racism happening, when really money shouldn't even be needed.
Also, upon reflection, us as a group really hope audiences realise and would hopefully agree with us that all this racial abuse being sent around online is wrong. And even though there are things being done already, we are still a long way from eliminating or minimising racism to an acceptable level.
Our conclusion. Overall, as a group, we chose to explore this topic as it's consistently happening on a weekly basis, nationally and globally at the moment. We also chose it because we have quite strong opinions on the issue in terms of what's being done and what more can be done. But the overall main reason we chose to explore the issue is some audience members out there may not have realised how bad this issue has gotten, as not everybody uses social media. But now we hope that they are more aware of what's going on, how bad racist abuse has become online, and will join the effort in making a stand and helping in any way they can.
Our calls to action. Each member of our group made a call to action. I believe that racism is never going to be fully eliminated. It's too late for that now. But if we can educate the younger generation quicker, then it can be minimised to a level in the future where it won't have such a negative effect.
I feel that projects/schemes such as Kick It Out should have representatives going into schools, both primary and secondary, and give talks to the students to make them more aware of the principles surrounding racism.
I feel education has to do more. The younger generation are our future. They need to be taught how to use social media properly in schools, and if they don't, what the consequences of their actions could be.
And social media passports are a must for me. All social media platforms should be making users have them, so they know that the person is genuine and can only have one main account instead of recreating new ones if their account gets banned.
Linking in with Jared, all social media platforms, if they can't get the social passports, at least begin deleting anonymous accounts, as most of the abuse sent is from accounts with no bio, no photo, no information, or no tweets, for example.
Judging by all our group's responses, we are still a long way from racist abuse online being fully eliminated. However, as long as everyone, whether a professional athlete, ex-professional, or a normal human being like you and me, keep making a stand, eventually these haters will no longer exist, be minimised as much as possible that no one will even care.
Thank you for listening to our presentation. We hope you learnt something new.